Meta Perspective Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to Meta Perspective Podcast. We're your hosts, Alex,
Evan,
and the girl. This is the show where we talk about deep and interesting topics and try to get to the heart of the idea through multiple perspectives.
but if you are joining for the first time, please give the channel a follow and the video a like. We plan to do random giveaways and things like that, so it doesn't hurt to stay active.
Speaking of staying active, don't forget to jump in that chat because we want to hear what you have to say. If you have ideas for topics for us or just want to jump into the conversation, because obviously Meta Perspective Podcast isn't meta
Without your perspective.
Boom.
So yeah, we will be continuing our series, something we've been doing lately. The first series was on the mind. This series is on the future. Excuse me. So we started off episode 1 of the series talking about the future of society. Last week, pending the current geopolitical global events, we did a series or an episode on
Future of war.
warfare.
Oh, that was a fun one.
Yeah, it was a good one.
Big bombs.
And tonight, we're going to be doing a future of humanity. So now we kind of did the future of society, like what it's going to look like when we're 80 years old, 50 years into the future. But tonight we're going to look a little further out. Will humans still be a thing in 100 years, 1,000 years? And what would that look like? What's the, if all goes well, what is the, what are the limitations of human expansion on this planet or on the world, the universe, whatever? What are our modern humans versus humans from 1,000 years going to be, like? We've already seen technology exponentially grow. So it should be a fun discussion. I mean, I'm not really sure exactly where to start it off, except for, just...
Well, I'd say, to start off, future humanity, obviously, of people like Musk, Elon Musk talking about sending us to other planets, colonizing other planets. I just wonder if technology is going to improve faster than we self-destruct.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a good place to start, honestly. So there's a famous paradox. I forget the name of it. It's the name of a physicist. It's like the something paradox. But these, I guess the story goes. I'm pretty sure it's a true story. But there was at the time, whenever this discussion was happening, some of the biggest theoretical physicists in the world were all together for some event, and they were out at a bar drinking and something, and they basically were like, is there life outside of Earth? So they started doing some calculations, number of stars. You look at like things like the Goldilocks zone of, what could be an inhabitable Earth. So it's like, as far as we've seen in our current scope in our solar system, like how many other planets like have similar conditions, and then they multiplied that, those mathematics by the infinite expansion of the universe, and they basically determined that there's no way that there's not life on other planets. Like there has to be life, there has to be even intelligent life. And then one of the physicists was like, well, why haven't we seen it? And basically the result of their discussion was that there becomes a certain point where intelligent life basically implodes on itself. It destroys itself, either through expansion and consumption of resources or, mutually assured destructions, the whole idea of like a nuclear apocalypse or whatever, human beings just, blow themselves up basically. So, that's kind of like, that's the obvious scenario of we don't make it 1,000 years. Either our planet is inhabitable or, we we make the planet unlivable, either through nuclear destruction or destruction of the environment and the natural processes that go on. So that's like, the option A. But if that doesn't happen, where do we go? Because I feel like on a way, human beings have the incredible ability to innovate out of problems. What seems like huge issues to us now, a couple years, a certain piece of technology can change all of that in an instant. We saw that with, between horse and buggy to cars. That was like one of the jokes in that movie, the show Silicon Valley. The guy was like, manure. In the 1920s, they predicted that, at the current rate, the streets of New York would be filled with 7 feet of manure. It's like, well, no one anticipated the car.
But there's still somehow a lot of manure all over the streets of New York. Just
doesn't come from horses.
We don't even have horses anymore, and there's still just as much poop. I don't understand.
But yeah, I mean,
They didn't see that coming. They're like, all right, what if I told you in the future nobody's riding horses in New York? They're like, so no poop. Same amount of poop. This is a better future? You said you have cars? I don't know what that is, but it sounds like there shouldn't be poop. If you have this technology, there shouldn't still be poop. Well, now the people are doing it.
There's always poop.
There's poop all over New York. But, yeah, I mean, to go with the Plan A thing real quick, I just want to say it is kind of one of those, like, it is a good question. If there was intelligent life on other planets, why haven't we seen it? From the angle of if other civilizations, because you'd have to assume that if you have another planet like Earth, even if it's different or whatever, if it's intelligent, if there is intelligent life that's capable of creating, then why haven't we seen them? People could say like, oh, well, we've seen stuff. No, I think all that stuff's extra dimensional. I mean, you can't have all these sightings, and it's like they're going through rocks and water, and there's no splash or anything.
Future humans could
could
send that back in time. That's...
Yeah, exactly. It's like there's no proof that at least for us, there's no proof that we have had beings from another planet come here. Even if they're like, well, there's beings, I need the proof that it's from another planet and not like some demon creature manifesting. Only because you would have to assume that another intelligent planet would go through the same problems ours does socially. And with a balance of good and evil being like a baseline for the universe, it's there's positives, there's negatives in energy. It's like love, evil, evil and good. There's those parallels exist through everything, black, white, everything. So you'd have to assume that they're going through the same, if they're from another planet, they're going through the same principles that we are of this universe. So they would be dealing with their own kind of evil. And if you have evil people on your planet, they don't have empathy. They're going to try to come up with, very complex ways to take advantage of people and keep refining that until people don't even know they're being taken advantage of. You have to assume that what's happening here is probably happening on another planet, because it would be the same kind of ideology. So, I mean, you could be like, well, what if they were doing all good stuff on that planet? Yeah, but one bad person is going to see how to take advantage of it. Yeah. That's the balance. That's how things work. So the question I raise is why haven't we seen them yet? How do we know that that any other planet, if there are other planets out there with life, how do we know that any of these planets have made it past the technological era of just their planet? Why do we think that they didn't destroy themselves and managed to come here?
Well, we don't. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, at some point, human beings will reach outside of our planet.
Well, I'm just saying, for the future of humans, I'm taking the bleak angle on this one because if there were other aliens and they've gotten to this point of technology, I mean, at this point, we should have multiple different alien races living with us, and we should know about them and be able to coexist. And, people could say, well, we're too primitive. Well, if they're that advanced, they know how to help us understand and bring us up. So the whole primitive thing shouldn't be an issue if you have a smarter thing coming. Like, well, we're a bunch of wild dogs. Yeah, but wild dogs got trained by humans. If something else more intelligent comes here, it'll get us under control. So why? Why has nothing come here and tried to integrate, tried to communicate, tried to... My only thing is, if we haven't seen them try to come and like be amongst us, communicate, emphasize anything, it to me kind of shows that, I mean, right there, how do we know any other planet has ever gotten to a point of not destroying themselves? If we're in the same boat of the same principles that they follow, and we're sitting here like, I hope we can get to Mars before we blow up the whole planet for a World War III, I would assume they would be facing these same kinds of obstacles.
Right. I mean, I'm going to focus on humans, for this episode at least, because, well, that's a good point. It's like,
but that's what I'm saying.
That's our logical next step if we don't destroy ourselves is expansion. It's going, kind of like, it reminds me a lot of.
But that's what I'm saying
Alien.
is for humans, I don't see the expansion aspect to Mars, like humans living on Mars. I don't see that. I see things going sideways here before we start to go to another planet. If you have evil controlling a planet, they're not going to let you go somewhere else without them having ties to all of it. So either you say, okay, you can control the whole universe and just keep controlling everything as we expand out, or this is my thing, and then it gets compromised. I don't see a power structure, a monopoly, allowing somebody to just go, get real estate on Mars and be like, well, they can have Mars. It's like, it's not how evil works.
Yeah.
I don't think evil's going to let you independently go explore the stars. I don't see any form of life really getting to that point. There's too much of an internal battle with humans of good and evil. I think we could easily have made it to multiple planets by now. If they were honest about the moon landing, honest about the technology, if we were all honest with each other and we were all working for one common good of like trying to do this, yeah. But with all the things in place, I don't see a going to Mars plan B as an option. Personally.
Well, I mean, I feel like it's something that we're going to do like either way, whether it works or not. I was about to say, I feel like it reminds me of like the Alien series, especially like the more recent ones, like the Prometheus, which is kind of like that's like right as they figured out what the aliens were. And essentially, like a powerful, an entrepreneur guy kind of makes like android robots, and all the money that he's acquired for that, he like kind of expands the space travel thing, and I'm sure there's like they establish like mining on other planets, and there's exploration, there's shipping and all that across the galaxy, and people are in the frozen, the cryo chambers or whatever for these 60-year journeys or whatever. And like that, we will probably get to that point at some distant future. Maybe not even that distant, But like to get at, that's kind of like the expansion of humans. We can talk more about that. But at least as far as like humans here, one of the things that I feel like we're going to see in our lifetime, it's only going to get more, only going to expand more, is the kind of biological, like the idea of the singularity, or we are biological machines. We're made of carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. And if you add metal into there, that's essentially kind of the idea of evolution in a way. So, whether it's natural selection evolution or not, like you almost become a new species when let's say that you're 90 years old and we've been giving people injections of like, cell regenerative therapies and stuff so that you don't look 90, you look maybe like 60. And, one of your kidneys is going out. So instead of doing a transplant, they just replace your kidney with some kind of cybernetic filter. Functions the same as a kidney. It actually probably works better than a kidney. And you just change it, dump out the toxins, and like that kind of thing. Like we're gonna see that in our lifetime.
One of the big conspiracies of the elite stuff is that they actually have cloning facilities. Now this is going to be off the roster, like Alex Jones level stuff. But the idea is that these powerful people, they already clone humans, and for a certain price, you can have yourself cloned, and they change the genes so that there's not much brain activity. So basically, there's no soul, and the body is just a functioning, brainless corpse.
A vessel.
So a vessel. So the idea is that they use those for harvesting organs. So if you need a heart transplant, we'll give you your heart. Perfectly raised, brand new heart, and it's yours. And it matches everything with you. We don't need to make a kidney. We'll just give you your same kidney.
Yeah.
I think that would be the future of health. I got to use it real quick. I don't know what happened. I might need one of those.
17 minutes in, it's
I know I need a new kidney.
might be a new record. But yeah, so whether it's like that's a good point. We could use cloning. Obviously, with the advancements of AI and quantum computing, just the human genome mapping, just protein and DNA mapping, we're going to figure out pretty quickly in our lifetime that, you just create a DNA code, and whether you clone it and reproduce it or whether you make modifications, we're going to be able to inject that into some kind of stem cell, egg zygote kind of thing, and then it starts to grow in a test tube. So whether that's growing organs or growing people or 3D printing Godzilla, it's like we're going to be able to figure out the genetic part of it. And I think that's a major step too. Like I brought up the idea of kind of like a cyborg type of, if you need a new liver or kidney, those are going to be things that are pretty easy to create. You don't necessarily have to replace your kidney. You just have to find an artery and a vein that are like in a central location where you could siphon off part of your blood, filter it, and put it back in, and your body's not going to know. So like those things are very possible, where we have little, like robotic implants, basically, where we just change out the filter pack, and it, helps us live longer. Human beings could live like a couple hundred years old, and kind
So you're
of
saying
slow the aging.
almost like a consistent blood transfusion.
Yeah, it'd be like dialysis, but like without having to be on a machine and be all tired. It's like, you basically have a third or a functioning robotic kidney or liver or whatever, like a filter, and it just does what it does, and your body acts normally. And, I think it's possible to do a robotic heart. It kind of gets complicated when it's like when you run or something, like how does it know to beat faster when you're excited,
Well, with the Neuralink, I think those kind of like that troubleshooting would be pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean that's it too. You have nodes on on brain activity.
So going off of this, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Everything we ingest is poison. So, cheers to that. So when it comes to all of this stuff, so one fear that I have for the future of humanity is with all the plastics, all the chemicals, all the stuff that we're bombarded by. Because, you know, you could be like, there's, fluoride stuff in your water. Well, it's trace amounts. Okay, well, what about trace amounts of everything and everything?
Yeah.
It's no longer trace amounts. It's trace amounts if you are a responsible person who goes by the back of that box who says, "Oh, what's one serving?"
94 nerds a year.
That blows my mind. There's 2,000 to 3,000 in a box, and you're only supposed to have 94 a year.
From last episode, or
Oh my God!
2 episodes ago.
Because of all the arsenic. But what happens if you eat a whole box of nerds in one sitting? I mean, I've done it plenty of times as a kid.
Yeah.
What happens when I keep going to McDonald's? And there's all these extra added hormones and all this other stuff, and this is bleached, and this is, everything has stuff tampered with it.
Yeah.
Now we have glyphosate on all these plants, and like now it's like all the vegetables I'm eating. Like, how many of those when I was younger did I wash off first?
Yeah.
On my fruit and all that stuff. And I can't help but wonder, like, the future of humanity. We already see the gooch shrinking. That's a thing. Male wieners shrinking. That's a thing. And as of right now, the only correlation they can say is it's plastic because of all the microplastics that are growing in our body. They're saying a lot of these things are also making us infertile. Now, obviously, with the Neuralink and all the proper hardware, you could get your body to kind of like flush out all the bad stuff or replace, or you could, nanobots, whatever. You could have things that go through and clean your body back out.
Yeah.
No, obviously, that's not something I'd want to sign up for because, the whole Mark of the Beast thing, you can't talk about that for like over 1,000 years. And then like all of a sudden it's like, hey, this looks like it would be the thing. And it's like, yeah, but it'll help you.
Wait, so
It's like, that's the scariest part is that I need to get this to get rid of all the damage you guys did to me because you didn't tell me all this shit was in here until after I ate it for decades.
yeah.
So it's like, it's a catch-22,
So
Basically, my question I'm asking you
yeah.
is, what do you see for the future of humanity? When it comes to all these cybernetics and all this stuff, do you see humanity going into the future as humanity?
fasting.
Yes, 100%. Fasting is probably arguably the number one thing you could do to really clean up your body.
And that's getting back to the primal way that we used to hunt and eat, in large portions, sporadically. You might not eat for a day. It gives you energy, and it starts. Your body behaves differently when you haven't eaten in a day. And that's kind of like, it's probably part of like the food, like the big food, like, oh, your metabolism slows down and then you get fat. So you better eat all this fucking junk food that we make. You don't want your metabolism to slow down, like.
You better eat while I get good
okay,
metabolism. Yeah.
I mean, fasting, like I was actually one of the first people to find out about fasting.
Really?
One of the guys, one of the pioneers of intermittent fasting was the guy who has Lean Gains. It's like a website or
Well, it's in the
something like that.
Bible. I mean, I don't think you were the first person.
Well, no, like as far as like the trend, the modern trend, like,
Yeah.
and that's actually something that I say all the time is ancient wisdom's the new thing, like, but I mean,
Everything
realistically,
comes back. You just
this
gotta
guy-
wait it out.
this guy Lean Gains did a bunch of research, and he had like a workout. He would post stuff. Super interesting stuff when I first learned about it. I heard about it from someone else who had been following him, who was kind of doing these like blog workout things, and So I started looking into it, started doing it in probably 2011 or 12 or so. And that was that's 7 years before you heard the word intermittent fasting. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of good science for that. I think we hear a lot of diet and nutrition, supplements, all this stuff. It's kind of everywhere from the veggie supplement
fasting
drinks
is definitely
and
a
powders
different.
and creatine and all that.
Yeah, fasting is. I did intermittent fasting for I want to say a year
Yeah.
or so, and I mean night and day. I mean the amount of energy I had, the amount of control I had over my mind. I would literally wake up, and there'd be no grog. I'd wake up full of energy
Yeah.
and excitement. I'd wake up motivated. I'd sit up and be like, "Woo, I'm ready." It was unhinged, just excitement and happiness. I was just on it.
Yeah.
And I would go to work. I'd work a full shift. I'd come home, hang out with friends, do whatever. When I laid in bed, I had the exact same amount of energy I had when I woke up.
Yeah.
And when I laid down, I'd go, "It's time for bed." And within a couple minutes, I was asleep. And because I had that much control, and that I was operating at a higher level. So it's that it's kind of where I'm I haven't been working out. I haven't been being as healthy. I don't know why I'm doing this podcast, but but no, when I was at that level, because I'm not now, I can't appreciate it. I can't do those things, but I also don't have access to it. I do and I don't. It's when you're intermittent fasting, when we're exercising, when you're eating the right stuff, when you're doing things properly, you elevate and you almost get a control over yourself. So
Yeah.
when I would lay down, I would tell myself it's time for bed, and I understood that it was a command. It's now I can do that and be like, I need to go to sleep. I need to go to sleep. I need to go to sleep. But I have trouble. But when I'm doing everything properly, when I go to bed and I say it's time to sleep, my body goes to sleep. When I wake up, I have plenty of energy. I mean, and that's no type of medication, only vitamins. That's no drinking, no smoking. That's just natural. And natural, the control you have is unparalleled to
Well, I feel like that. I mean,
junk
that's
food.
that there's something to be said about that level of discipline, and most people just don't have it now. So I would believe that at some point in the future, because we're always looking for the path of least resistance, same way as all energy in the universe. But I would expect that at some point we start to control and regulate. We talked about blood filters, things like robotic kidneys and livers, but all of our endocrine organs, our thyroids, our pancreas, our brain has a lot to do with how to regulate and secrete those enzymes and the hormones and all that. Who's to say we can't just figure that? That would be an easier step than figuring out how to regulate every cell in the body. It's we just we're already giving people hormone therapy against medical observations and empirical data, but we're doing it, and people that actually need it for life-saving situations, and when if something fails, we're able to supplement that with injectables or IVs or whatever. Who's to say that we don't just have a next to your robotic filter kidney liver, you have a concentrated solution of perfectly procured vitamins and minerals and electrolytes. Next to that, there is the series of 9 different endocrine and brain chemicals that can be ejected at any time. I'm about to go do this. Time for some neuroepinephrine. I'm jacked up, or it's like, oh, I just ate a bunch, like time to digest with some digestive enzymes.
See, for me though, the whole cyberpunk future, I could never get on board with.
I'm not saying that
Not that
maybe it doesn't happen in our lifetime, but
yeah, not that you'd even be on board with it.
1,000 years from now.
But my only issue with that is I'm a firm believer that the human body is damn near perfect. That there is almost nothing you can do to improve it. Think about a car.
I mean, that's
you have a car. You have
mostly
a car,
true.
But think about a car. You get a car from the factory. You're like, oh, I want to make it faster. Slap a fat turbo on it. Okay, well, that car's not meant to run like that. So you got to upgrade the motor. Well, that's really expensive. You got to upgrade the motor. Okay, well, now there's this weight and this speed. You got to upgrade the brakes. You got to upgrade so much. I mean, it's nonstop. It gets to the point where the idea of cybernetics to me, it starts at here's something that'll help you. But like medicine, to me, it's like medicine. You can't improve the human body. It's already perfect. So here's medicine to help you. Also, you're going to want to take these 3 pills for all the side effects that are going to come with it because the body's perfect. And we're just slapping a Band-Aid on a gushing river.
But that's like, it's about half true. I mean, it's perfect for what it does, but it's only designed to make us reproduce and then nothing after that. So if we're going to have extended, couple 100 years long lifespans, not only do we have to do something in that initial stage when you're young, but like when you're old, to sustain you. So, there's things to improve. Like
my only thing is if the body starts to break down after reproduction, that's what it's supposed to do.
Well, yeah.
So if you push
I'm not arguing
but my
whether it's right.
My
or not.
argument is that there is no fix. You want to live longer? Slap this thing on. That'll help this. But you still have other issues here. So we're going to do this. At what point are you sufficient?
Right.
I mean, and my argument would be you're sufficient at the point where you're no longer human. That there's no way, the only way we can improve the human body is to make a human body that's not a human body.
Right,
and it's like, yeah, it's a machine. It could run almost forever, but you've lost the humanity and you're no longer you. And we don't know what the fuck is in this thing.
Well, that's the singularity concept. It's like, is that an evolutionary step? And to that, there's been
but
some
it's not though. Like it couldn't be. An evolutionary step is by definition evolution. If you believe in evolution, then it's by evolution. You can't say that my human brain created evolution. No, I can't create evolution. Evolution is a natural thing through biology, which is where an animal may adapt to something, but every other aspect of it also adapts to this new kind of trait. And so, again, it's like if humans, you gave birth, you've had 5 kids, your body's breaking down. Here's this new kidney thing. But in order for this to make sense, because even with the new kidney, your heart's still going to fail at the same time. So we're going to need a new heart. But this will also fail at the same time. So you'll need a new this. I mean, it's to get you to live past what you're supposed to live to. At what point is it enough to where you can live an extra 50 years and still be like, I'm a human?
Yeah.
That's my only thing is I personally don't see it as possible for a human to have so many things working in them that work. At some point you have to separate from the body. And at that point, why even integrate with it? Why not have things just be healthy? Why not just promote exercise? Why not educate people on, hey, if you want to live longer.
Right. No, I'm talking about the future. Like, I mean, I agree with you.
But that's my argument is in the future, if like a future of a cyberpunk future like that, to me, is dystopian. And I don't see that as evolution. I see that as control. We are going to evolve you. So you just give us your money and we'll evolve you. To me, that's not evolution. That's a trick.
Well,
so I don't,
right. But there's either option A, like we talked about mutually assured destruction and human race ceases to exist after 100 years. Or there's the other option where technology and our advancements continue, and what does that look like? And that's what I'm talking about. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter.
But I
This is
still
just
see a
theorizing
C.
on what could happen, and
But I still see a
with
C
current
scenario
technology,
where
where we all lived like in the tribe
Well-
back in the day where we came from.
essentially, I mean,
Well,
but it's realistic.
Maybe
because-
after the nuclear holocaust.
But I mean, there is truth to it. Where even if you take out all the future war and all that stuff, I think a lot of people already aren't happy with where we're at. I think a lot of people miss, 20 years ago, being able to just walk down the street, see a friend, everybody's outside, everybody's walking around, everybody's intermingling. And just in 20 years, everybody's on their phones, nobody's going out anymore, everybody's staying home, malls are dying, movie theaters are dying, bowling alleys are dying. Anything that is social, that has people, is dying. I think that is going to be the first backlash that could actually create a C scenario where we do kind of go back to the tribe, where people are like, what, we don't really need all this stuff. Like, I love having a TV in every room, having a VR, having a place. I love having all this stuff, but at this point, I would give it up to go back to where we were. So, and I think a lot of people are getting to that point where it's like, I have all this stuff, but I'm so disconnected from people. What does it matter?
It's too late. We're at ecological overshoot. There's no way that every single human being on the planet could live a sustainable lifestyle anymore.
No, I mean, at this point, there's going to be some kind of head. There's not going to be any type of peaceful.
Well, that kind of gets okay. So, like, we're talking about human beings living longer, and the dark side of that is the means to live longer. It's not just given, and that kind of creates another scenario where it's like, who gets to live to be 200 or 300? And that kind of comes down to the control and the economics and all that stuff. But purely on a technological level, like everything that we were talking about, like we would consider them advancements as they're happening. First they would be saving people that have genetic disorders or whatever. And then it would be people that could just pay for it, or it's like offset your terrible lifestyle choices. But at some point, it's going to be like, human beings either need to evolve on a emotional, spiritual level, or it's just going to be this like, we keep bailing out the boat that has tons of holes in it, and eventually it sinks, but we get to float on it for 3 times as long or something like that, But, at some point, because you think about like, evolution is still technically happening. And then right now we're kind of devolving because, the fat, ugly, unhealthy person can reproduce. So there's no natural selection processes that are actually promoting good genes or adaptations or even mutations that could further the species to something else. But at some point maybe that separates, maybe genetic engineering, and maybe we make super soldier type of humans, because they actually figured out pretty recently that there is the reasons. A lot of the reason for aging is you have this cell replication process, and something about the end of the DNA chain is just kind of sloppy. And as you get older and it reproduces, you start to lose pieces of it. But I think, and I'm just spitballing here, I don't know exactly how this technology works. This is like high level biochemistry stuff. But essentially, the end of your DNA is locked with a cap, where it's like it can't be cut off, or you can't lose stuff, or something to that effect, where it's like the telomeres or something. Like there's a certain word for the leftover bullshit DNA after replication. It gets shorter and shorter and shorter until your cell kind of like starts to age because it doesn't reproduce perfectly. But, you know, let's say we figure that out. Let's say we figure all this stuff out where now we're, you know, we can live longer. We're younger and healthier for longer, this and that. You know, at some point we need to evolve, both physically and as a collective. You know, kind of come to more of a hive mind type of mentality, or instead of like a survival, everyone for themselves, this kind of capitalism does a good job. It's a dynamic ecosystem that, you know, the strong survive and it benefits the weak, and everything's symbiotic. But then, you know, when you extend that over the next 100 years, or at least our lifetimes, we're gonna see these things start to come to a head where not everybody can be 300 years old and have everything that they want. So, you know, at some point we're going to have to evolve beyond the physical and genetic level. And I think that's going to be influenced by our knowledge of all this. So maybe we come up with like the super soldier human, like true eugenics. You know, be able to curate and remove bad genes of our babies or something like that. Or maybe we instill people with some type of connective something. I don't know. Like,
I mean, but for me, now I do think that is the direction it would go, only because of evil, because of control. I think the best way to get people to live longer is to release the information of all of these natural plants and all of these things, especially what we had back in biblical times. There's plants back in biblical times that are in the Bible that you really can't find today.
right, but
Now,
what do those plants have to offer other than the chemicals within the plant? And why can't we just synthesize that?
I would say for this reason. It's like a lie. If evil wanted us to be better, they would release the information of how to cure cancer. We know we have it. They would release. I mean, there's so much. There's so much. I mean, there's cures for diabetes. There's cures for all this stuff. That is out. And, you know, you have like out of 10 patients, it worked on all 10. But where's a big case study? They won't do one because they're fucking evil. But a normal person will try to do a case study, and this is what they got. Nobody has a cure, but here's 10 people with 10 cures. But that doesn't make anything because I'm doing something unorthodox. Now I lose my license, and now nobody will listen to me because I'm not a doctor anymore. My point being that a lie is a lie. If they wanted us to get better, they'd help us get better. We have the technology to understand how all of this stuff really works with the human body and really amplify it. But instead,
there's a whole episode that we should talk about the nature of the soul and what that really is.
And next series, I'd be down for like a whole spiritual soul series. But all I want to say to this is, if they want us to be better, they'd be honest, tell the truth, and we get better. But instead, they tell lies. And there's only one thing I understand about a lie, and that's that there's no truth to it. There is no ending to a lie.
Right.
A lie will always keep going, getting more complex. And that's how I see the human body. They're not using the truth to help us live longer. They're using lies. So just use these mechanical parts. Well, that's great. The science adds up. But how does this work with the whole body? It limits it. So, you know, it's like fabric. You know, you could have this original fabric and you could pull it every which direction, do all this stuff. It maintains its integrity. Now, you cut a little triangle out of the side. Now, you could easily, now that that's cut, you could just pull it in half and now it'll rip. It doesn't have the same integrity.
Yeah.
You sew a new patch on.
I get it. Yeah.
You sew a patch on, and the patch is better than the original. However, it doesn't work with the same threads, doesn't follow the same patterns. And that's my only thing is as you add things, you have to keep adding things, and there's no end to the lie. It's we're going to make the human body better, but the human body's perfect. We're going to make it better. That's a lie. So you're going to keep adding stuff, keep doing things until you get a Terminator, and you're like, well, there's not a human soul in this thing, but it'll live forever.
Right.
Great.
So that's
How do we kill it now? Fuck.
That's what we're doing now. I want to get beyond the idea of the evil because at some point, maybe we go from here.
But if we take all the evil out, realistically, we did not have these issues with cancer 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Cancer was not this big of a thing. Go even further back, hardly an issue at all. What we're doing to progress things is killing us. So instead of stopping what's killing us and releasing information of how people lived as long as they did back in the day, or, what are these things that can combat this stuff? And how do we, with our technology, take this plant and mass produce it so that everybody in the world can get it instead of just this one country in Africa? Now the whole world has access to it. Why aren't they doing that? We have all of these labs. We have Monsanto. We have the technology to take some of the rarest medicinal plants and mass produce them, and we don't. Take evil out of it. Realistically,
we're already doing that with plants, and we mass produce them, and we fuck it up.
But realistically, we all know that the reason why they're not doing this is because they make more money off treatments than they do cures. So they're not going to take a plant and properly replicate it so that everybody can get the same healing.
I want to get beyond the they and beyond the evil. Because let's say the future of humanity, we go through this period where exactly, that's kind of what we talked about in episode 1 of this series, future of society, and like where we are in 100 years. That at some point we're either going to get destroyed or we're going to get past that, and it's going to be the next stage. And that's what I want to focus on. It's like, what if we're all working together at the same mind, and we all have the same goals, and no one's taking advantage of others, and we're all trying to innovate. What does that look like? And that's what I want to explore. It's like,
so for me, the future of humanity is a natural evolution of the mind. It is not something produced. It is a separation of self. It is which you could say it's sped up with social media and all that, because you're constantly just being bombarded with how everybody. First, it was this, everybody pushing a fake life on you. Then it was, hey, all these people, this is a fake life. This is the best moment they've had all month. And they're posting it to make it seem like they do it all the time. This is a normal place, but their friend's a videographer and knows how to get the right angles and stuff to make it seem like you're doing more than you are. But really, you're doing the same thing they are. They're just capturing it better. Once people start to get aware of that, you get this whole wave of humanity that's like, all of this is fake. We're all trying to convince each other that we look a certain way. And I think that starts to bleed into the hive mind, where everybody collectively at the same time starts to go, what are we doing? And that question, that internal monologue that starts to recycle and form thoughts and ideas and beliefs, I think it will be humanity's evolution, which is a separation from self into a more spiritual level, where we almost go back to the past of having this deeper rooted connection with the earth and humans and everybody else, and animals,
well, that's the other thing too, is that we can't replicate millions of years of evolution. So if we fuck up the biodiversity of the planet, if we disrupt the ecosystem beyond repair, then we're kind of in a boat where we have to mitigate damage and just prolong our existence. But I think there was a natural
flow. though.
I mean, we could
Like
actually
you could call
create-
it God,
recreate-
whatever, but I think there's a natural flow that when things get to that point of like
Yeah, something
evil
else
is
steps-
winning, or let's say things have been ruined too much beyond repair. Once it gets close to that, I believe there is a natural leveling where it's like right before we get to that point of like there's no going back. I feel like that's when people naturally wake up, and it's like this subconscious thing of like everybody hearing some conspiracy theorist saying something 20 years ago, and it's like, wait, this is where we're at, and now I can see, now that I had this flash back, I can go, oh, things weren't like this then, but now that they're like this now, I can see that where he said it's going, this is the only way it can go because we're that close. In other words, it's like you could have one person saying that train's just gonna take you off the edge of a cliff, and everybody getting on is like, yeah, we're all getting on a train that's gonna drive off a cliff. Okay, buddy. But then it's like as you see a cliff coming up and you see tracks end, everybody starts to go, okay, we cannot put our faith in the train. I remember a guy saying something about tracks ending. I see tracks ending. We have to jump off. So I do feel like there is like
Right. It's
a bail safe, if you will.
yeah.
It's a fail safe, but they bail out of the train. It's funny
Well, you know,
to me. Depending on how
also,
fast
also
it's
goes
going.
to the bailing of the boat reference. But no, I think so to take a step further beyond that, we the idea of aliens or whatever, you have this idea of the Greys, where it's basically humanoid shaped people that have big ass brains, kind of useless bodies,
Big ass eyes.
but and eyes and noses and mouths, like everything that we have.
But the eyes and
You
the
don't
brains are the
think-
biggest.
You don't think that, like, if life evolved on another planet, like, we might not look the same way and not stand on two legs and have
But then that
And
goes
just-
back into the
maybe
could
we
these
have
be
6
time travelers from the future?
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It's like, at what point, because if time travel exists, it's already happened. How's that for every movie you've ever seen? But, it's like all of these UFOs and stuff like that. Maybe something is either going to happen soon, or future humans are seeding the opportunity for a technological advancement that allows us to get to that next level, or at least, the same way that they could have gone back and showed the ancient Egyptians and Greeks and Mesopotamians all this geometry and star charts and all that helped lead, that they know, probably in the hieroglyphs, that whatever knowledge that was given to those people led to the technology that they have. And so at some point, if we figure out, time travel, it would have to be like almost like 100,000 years in the future, where we look like gray aliens, and now we have the ability to bend space and time, and we establish a point where we can always go back to. At that point, maybe we are the UFOs and all that. And maybe we are influencing the current world. And no matter what humans do, we won't destroy ourselves, because we have someone's made it into the future and it's going to prevent our destruction, because it's already happened, that we progress. And I think about those kind of things, and I firmly believe that human beings can innovate their way out of any problem. We've created a problem like we've been discussing the past 100 years of manifest destiny, expansion of both land, conquest, and also our population. It's starting to come to a head. So using poison and
Okay,
stuff
so
like that
over time.
doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter to the people that are running things, because less people means less problems. So, at some point, there's going to become a point where either our planet is in jeopardy, or human beings annihilate most of their population, or it just something's gonna come to a head, because right now our trajectory is not going very well. We are starting to affect the planet. That's apparent. I don't think it's a catastrophic thing like global warming is. We're all going to be dead in 10 years. It's not that necessarily, but we are fucking with the ecosystem. We're fucking with the weather and the gradients of temperatures and pressures and all that. So, at some point we're gonna start to mitigate some of that. I've done past episodes on the carbon capture technology, fusion energy. Like, I won't get into too much of that, but theoretically, right now nuclear energy is based on fission. It's uranium, it's radioactive, and it's just really hot. It's really hot uranium. And when you submerge it in water, it creates steam. Same way as burning coal creates steam. And that steam rises and turns a turbine. And that turbine turns an electromagnetic coil and creates electricity. So a nuclear plant works the same way as a coal plant. It's just, instead of using coal to heat the water, we use uranium rods to heat the water. That's fission. But what's currently being developed, and what they had actually within the past, I think, year, I'd say about a year ago, or within the past year, one of the nuclear fusion plants actually got net positive energy for the first time. And it wasn't by much. But essentially the idea is that instead of using uranium to heat water, you use hydrogen plasma, which is just rogue protons contained in an electromagnetic force. It looks like a donut shape, and there's a couple iterations of this, but essentially it just creates millions of degrees when you create this plasma and you sustain it. I think you can create plasma in a microwave. There's a thing for that.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a candle, and you put a piece of glass over it, and then it creates a pressurized thing in the plasma.
Now, is the candle lit when you put it in?
Yeah, it's lit when you turn it in. You can make plasma. It might fuck your microwave up, but I'd say look it up on YouTube.
Yeah, watch the YouTube videos first before
Yeah.
you fuck up your microwave. Yeah.
But either way, it's just hydrogen, which is all around us. So we can create fusion energy, and that creates heat. And we can use that same heat, the same that the coal makes, the same that the uranium makes. We use that heat to drive a steam turbine. The problem is that there's the materials don't currently exist to cost effectively withstand the millions of degrees of that plasma. But there are advances with graphene, which is another version of carbon. It's like
I did see a thing.
graphite, graphene, diamond. It's all very resilient structural materials.
I did see a thing about a hadron collider that was set to be made. I'm not sure it ever got done.
This isn't a hadron collider.
Particle accelerator?
No, different thing. This would be like a
What's it called?
fusion power.
I don't see. I feel like it was a hadron collider, but it was the same idea as far as as far as it was producing heat, and they were saying it would produce like something trillion. They said it was like hotter than the sun, and I was like,
I mean,
how the fuck do you contain that?
Yeah, I mean, you're basically
like really though, that really confuses me when I hear studies like that where they're like,
well,
it's 3 times hotter than the sun. I'm like, the sun would melt everything on this planet. What do you use?
well, I mean, they're basically recreating the same effect as nuclear fission, like the uranium. because that's this could be a whole episode in itself. But basically, the energy that we work with in our world is electron based. So electricity, all that's electrons. But the energy that holds two protons or neutrons together in the nucleus of the atom is magnitudes. Like add 9 zeros to the amount of energy of an electron. Extreme amount of energy. So, the sun creates so much energy because it's hydrogen that fuses into helium. Just 2 protons become helium. So it's very primitive. It's not like a particle accelerator where you have large nucleuses and you're just shooting protons and subatomic particles to make this big mass and see how big the mass can be. That's the same idea. It's not necessarily nuclear fusion, but it is the idea of, and it gives off heat. I'm sure it does. But to figure out nuclear fusion with proton plasma is a lot easier of a step. It's just too hot. So the idea of cold fusion, that's like a sci-fi kind of thing. It's like if you can create fusion without extreme inputs of energy or outputs of energy, then you have infinite energy. And I say, I'm getting off track, but I say all this to basically say that at some point in our lifetime or in the next 100 years, we are going to create a machine that has an input of energy, runs, and then outputs more energy than it inputs. And it doesn't create radioactive waste. It doesn't burn fossil fuels. It doesn't have any emissions. It's basically free energy. And we're going to get to that point. This is being developed right now. And within the past year, it's been successful. Maybe it's just a little bit of energy. But the first computer was the size of a room.
Well, and that's why for the future of humanity, it's tough for a topic, only because the good and evil aspect is it's so real. It's hard to remove it when it's so prominent in the development. And by that,
I gotta pee.
So,
Keep it going though. I'm gonna listen.
So by that I mean, if it's not so much a boing as it was a flump. What was I saying? All right. So, really wanted him here for this. Guys, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. I definitely think that for the future of humanity, I mean, not to be cliche, but we're the future. So, I mean, you have to determine where you're at now. I mean, if certain people are controlling the future, it's because we go along with it. So a lot of us have to push ourselves a little bit to try to understand where we are, what we are, where we're going, to get some kind of opinion on whether we want to go that direction. So it was, we were talking about fusion and whatnot. So my big thing is when I say evil's a thing, when you look at stuff God, there's so many examples. What was the one I was going to use though? Because it was the best one and the least conspiracy oriented. But there's
For energy?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to energy, there's so many. God, I wish I could remember my train of thought. But I'll just jump into this one. There's so many different things that have come out that will help humanity. and they get suppressed. And it's not conspiracy; it is public knowledge. These are patents for cars to be less wasteful. These are patents for cars to get more mileage, so I can drive further and not pollute as much. Perfect. What is it? I don't know. The patent exists, and they bought it. It seems to be Chevy a lot of the times, but Chrysler, I don't know. They all do it. But it's like you'll get technology that comes out, they buy the patent, and then they don't do anything with it. So the reason I say evil is a factor is because I think we could skyrocket technology. Like all the stuff you're saying, how do we know it's not possible? How do we know it hasn't already been done? But they just don't want it out because it's too free. That was my thing. Tesla. Nikola Tesla was creating free electricity for everybody. If you look at what he was doing, and he was almost done with it, there's a patent for it, and he supposedly he came up with the idea for free energy. After traveling to Egypt, studying the pyramids, he came back and he's like, I think I know how this works. And everybody's like, what works? And he's like, shh. So he builds that crazy giant thing and then dies and it's torn down. The conspiracy is they killed him because it's free energy.
Yeah.
So now there's tons of stuff in it as far as him coming out with the patent, being like, I can do this. And then a lot of his sponsors and stuff pulled out. They're like, no, we're not going to donate money to you for this. This is going to hurt us. And then it became a whole issue where it's like his funding was getting pulled. He started to go bankrupt. Basically, everybody who was supporting him was like, none of us are supporting you anymore. And he ended up dying alone, poor, which is crazy. So my whole argument is with evil acting as it does, when you have somebody like Nikola Tesla who's like, I think I understand how to do free energy. Like, I think I know how everybody can have their houses lit with light bulbs and not pay money. Would that not be an advancement for society and a large step for humanity?
Of course.
And could we not use that free energy to bleed into other aspects like you're talking about that might require more energy? Why would we not do that? And that's my only thing, is the only reason we wouldn't have done that is because of evil. Because they want to control it, they want to make money off of it, and you can't make money off free energy.
It sounds like you're stuck in the advancement that we can't advance because of evil.
It's not that we can't advance. I just believe that with evil existing, we're only going to advance.
We're not going to get to that next
We are
level.
going to advance one direction. And I think we all see the direction. The direction is humans that are half robotic living on other planets. The future is not humans living on planet Earth healthy with human bodies. That's not the future we've been sold. We've been sold one direction. And it's through movies, through policies, through everything, that there's one clear direction we're going. And that's my argument, is when it comes to evil, we don't have the freedom to actually evolve as a civilization. That's why I argue with these other planets. Why would they not work the same way? How come they're traveling here to see, have you guys gotten past your issues yet? That's the theory. Like, I don't know, why don't you come and help us? You already did it, right? Like, it's just, it to me, it all just seems kind of like a made-up game where there's a direction for where this is going. We don't fully understand, but none of us really understand the technology that is driving us. So we're all falling behind what's leading us. And what's leading us is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger every step it takes. It's not like we're following a leader, and if we stop following him, that leader loses power. What we're following is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And to me, that's the question we need to ask as a civilization. When it comes to like a hive mind, is, do we all want to go this direction? Because the future of humanity is vast. We could do so much. I think as far as what we've already produced. I mean, like, there has been a car that drives on water. It's been made. And the patent was bought for a lot of money. So it was done. How come we've never heard of it? Again, why are we not advancing explosively in every direction? Why is it only one direction? That's why I say I wish I could get off the evil thing, but I can't steer it. You know, I can try to create something, but I mean, from every story I've ever seen of anything good that's ever been created, I'm not going to see the end of it.
Yeah.
That's why I think the future of humanity is complex. And if you take all the deep stuff out, we're unlimited. I mean, that's what it is. We have the technology to literally create cybernetic bodies. And from what I hear, they're at least publicly getting close to finding a way to put the mind and everything into it. Now, the soul, I don't know. But like, technology is exploding every direction. We just get told about it. We have no understanding or idea of it. And again, it just gets hard. It's like, I want to speculate for where I think we could go, but I mean, with the factors in place, I don't see us capable of going that direction because there's too much potential, and we're going to be limited. The powers that be are not going to let all of humanity just grow exponentially. I mean, I just don't see that with all the roadblocks we see in health. You know, I mean, okay, let's say we have no cure of cancer. We know what causes cancer. Why are we still putting it in food? You know, again, if evil's not a thing, it's like, it's hard for me to say it's not the biggest thing.
Well, you know, okay, so there's limitations to our current system that, you know, we're polluting the planet both with toxic chemicals and with, you know,
but it's the
carbon
corporations
dioxide.
ran by these people that are polluting the most.
Hold on. Let me just flesh this out. So, you know, there's limitations. There's spatial limitations. It's based on our ecosystem, what it can sustain, because we rely on all these biological processes. But theoretically, if everybody lived in a room that was this size, if we were able to synthesize every vitamin, every endocrine chemical, everything that we need to live as humans, and minimize that impact on the greater ecosystem, so we have the ecosystem services maintained. Every human being has what they need. Because right now, I mean, you could survive off of sugar and vitamins. It's not going to be the best health. Like a fresh fruit does more, but you know, within our lifetime, maybe we figure out what about the fresh fruit makes it that much more dynamic and better for you.
That's why I think it's perfect, though, is because your body needs to break down the actual parts that make up the vitamins.
Well, that's
so not just the part, not just the vitamin.
What does a plant need? It needs water, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and carbon dioxide. So if we have all that, who said we can't just grow fruits, perfect fruits, in hermetically sealed chambers?
100% we could.
Yeah.
Why aren't we doing it?
Monsanto, we're not there yet.
Do you remember in the
right.
It was like
the
mid 2000s.
I understand the control.
No, but do you remember in the mid 2000s when Monsanto came out and said, we have the technology to genetically mutate stuff, and with this technology we could end world hunger? That's how Monsanto became Monsanto.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, that sounds great. Yeah, you wanna fuck with the genes in a science lab of a fruit and create a new fruit? If it can end world hunger and we're still eating the same fruit, we're all on board. But we didn't get the information of it's not the same fruit. I mean, we did. It's genetically modified, but we didn't know what that meant.
Right,
So
but
you fast forward all these years later, world hunger is not even close to getting solved. I mean, when
Of
it
course, I'm not talking about currently. I'm
But-
talking
but-
about our potential. I'm talking about what could
our
be.
potential that you're talking about is now.
Right.
Why isn't it
I
happening?
know.
Why is world hunger still a thing?
I know, but like yeah, but
The future of humanity, hypothetically, is unlimited.
yeah.
But the future of humanity, from where we are now, what does our future look like? To me, bleak. It doesn't look like, perfect vegetables. Our technology,
right, that's
with
option
what
A,
we have, we could
destruction.
do everything. But again, the main question is where we're at right now. It's not about our future of technology. Most of the stuff we're talking about,
Well,
we
I would
already
love
have.
to talk about that part because I feel like that's where this episode's going because we always talk about the limitations, and I want to get to like what is possible. Like it's true.
I'm on board for going on what's possible, just to let open people's minds to like what we can do and what we already have the technology to do and aren't doing.
Right.
Just so more people are on board with doing it. That could be a change for our future.
Yeah, like
100%.
talking about 500 years from now. Like these things are
We're
possible.
lucky to make it 5.
We have the DNA. We supply the fertilizer and the stuff to make the fruit, and we give it all the inputs, and it's like that level of control. I mean, it is that's where you start to play God. That is where evil almost like either dies or becomes or evolves. I guess
Literally, either
into
evil,
a god.
either it dies or it evolves into something that you can't stop. A god.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point where we basically become gods. And is that, that's a theological discussion, whether the Bible predicts that turning point or whether we just blow through it and we kind of become gods as humans. That's a whole theological discussion, but
Now, personally, I
the
do.
technology is there. Like if we understand, we see the natural processes. As long as we don't fuck up the general ecosystem, because we can't just recreate that. But theoretically, we could be on that trajectory if it wasn't so control based and resource based.
So if I could say something crazy. So, future of humanity, what I believe, if evil in the picture or not in the picture, the future of humanity, realistically, what I believe it would be, is it's a shift. It's a psychological shift. An awareness and understanding that we all start downloading.
Probably based in necessity.
It's a click. It's kind of like everything seems to be going to a head right now, and I think that's part of the head. You could call it the rapture, call it whatever you want. I think the future of humanity is an aspect of it's a place in the mind of that we unlock, where we realize we become so aware of the physical world as kind of one thing that, in other words, your consciousness is able to understand the world. I am a part of this universe. So there are everything in me, the energy that makes up the atoms and the molecules and everything in me is made of the same thing as everything else in this entire universe. The best way I can say it is the future of humanity is where we all reach a point where our consciousness catches up to its very self. And we become aware of ourselves internally to where the physical world that becomes so well understood that we kind of catapult into the fourth dimension, which would be the rapture, which is people leaving their bodies, just ascending and going into the next, which would be going into heaven, whatever, but you're separating out of this world.
Yeah.
So when you look at a lot of the alien stuff, almost every story you hear, there is something that makes it multidimensional, not multi-planetary. So these are not extraterrestrial, they're extra dimensional beings.
Yeah.
So if that's what I believe our evolution would be, is a spiritual evolution into another place. It wouldn't be a smarter version of yourself, because we're not dogs. You could train a smarter version of us. So an evolution wouldn't be something you can train. It would be a new trait, a new adaptive trait
Yeah, like a
that is
genetical-
naturally linked within us.
Yeah.
So that's why I believe humans, with how intelligent we are, our next adaptive trait, our next evolution would be separating from the physical and going fully, and basically the human mind separating from the physical body and going more into the mind and separating into a next
Yeah,
dimension.
universal consciousness in a way. Yeah.
I believe that's why it's like when people talk about like the time traveler theory, it's like, how do we know these are time travelers and not humans in the future who are just extra dimensional, and they're able to come down and impart wisdom in this other realm that they exist in that we can't comprehend, like an ant being like everything's 2D.
Yeah.
They can't. You could be an ant that experiences 3D, and then you go back to the 2D world, and you're like, guys, let me explain this, and they're like, we don't get it. That's evolution.
Yeah.
To me, those are the steps. So at least for a human. So if you're a human, you can't think what the fourth dimension would be like. But as you start to embody all of the third dimension, and it becomes like an entire, it becomes a one piece where you start to see how everything works together. And you're able to see that because you're made of the same stuff that is allowing all of this to work together. So it's all in us. So I think that would be our next evolution, is an awakening, an internal understanding of what we are, exploding outward into the third dimension, which would catapult us to the fourth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're coming up on time here. Yo, T-Dub, STL. Love
Oh,
brother.
boy.
Hell yeah, guys.
bro.
Check out T-Dub, STL. That's YouTube channel. He's a friend of ours, and he's a local rapper in the St. Louis area.
And good.
Support local artists. Thanks for
It's a mixtape you
T-Dub.
keep
Hell yeah.
when somebody gives it to you. I'm just saying. There's a lot I just pass on.
But we are
There's
coming
a
up,
lot.
We are coming up on time here. Usually we do like our closing kind of thoughts here. We sum up the episode and kind of open the mind to the ideas and the prescription. In this case, it's not like we're trying to solve any problem or anything like that. We're just speculating on what.
We're hammering it out.
So I'll go ahead and go. Just give my little closing thoughts. So obviously, we're human beings. I like, I feel like it's hard for us to get past the fact that our current trajectory is leading us to option A, which is destruction.
Which is sad for how far we are.
It is. I mean, it's people being in control. It's a hierarchy.
We invented the wheel and we're trying to roll it over people. It's like
Exactly. I mean,
it's like we did something great and we're being dumb with it.
We're above the ecological overshoot to where we can't naturally exist on this planet anymore. Not all of us, anyway. There's a limitation to how many people can live in an agrarian farming society on the world, and just we're beyond that now by several billion. So that's no longer an option. I tend to be an optimist. I think that human innovation is going to solve the biggest problems of our world, and we don't fully even understand that that's possible yet. Like we're hung up on the idea of greenhouse gases and carbon emissions and stuff like that being what destroys the planet. But I think at some point we figure out free energy with fusion, just hydrogen plasma. We're able to generate energy at a higher output than we have the inputs. And I think that we can capture the carbon in the air, turn it into carbon fibers and graphene, the materials that power the future. that I've done a whole episode about that, and I won't get into the specifics, but just any short term hurdle that you can think of now, there is a way to innovate it. And if we actually suspend our ethical beliefs and we get into genetic engineering and cloning, mapping our minds, reproducing it in something else, you start to really scratch at the surface of what is consciousness, because from a child, we are one conscious being from birth to death, and we remember stuff from our childhood, but yet all of our cells and all of our atoms have recycled since then, for the most part. I mean, neurons are, kind of there. That's a lasting thing, but you're not the same than you were 10 years ago. Your body has recycled, yet your consciousness still exists. And at some point, our understanding of physics and chemistry and energy is going to come to a point where we kind of understand this. And with the help of AI and quantum computing, things like that, we're going to accelerate our ability to not only learn about, what causes us to get cancer, what causes us to age, why do we have certain, genetic hereditary diseases. These things are going to be black and white, like you can just read them from a book. By the time that we're 80, before we die, I believe that we're going to get to this point where the human genome is basically mapped. And at that point, ethics kind of becomes almost non-existent, because it's one thing to do an ethical study on a clone or an unethical use of stem cells from a host, a human host, and you're able to clone somebody or recreate something. But once we understand it all, it's going to be basically like, it's no longer an ethical question. It becomes more of a limitation. Are you willing to step through that open the Pandora's box, step through the door to the next level, where like kind of, we had the discussion of good and evil. Like at that point, are you stepping into God territory? Have you crossed the line in the sand? We're not humans anymore. We are the next step. We are the evolution. And does that involve cybernetics? Like, you get old and your kidney and your liver fail. Well, why not just have a robotic filter that just, inserts into an artery and a vein, and now we're able to filter the body's waste and dispose of it and replace the filter. That almost becomes an evolution in a way. It's the idea of the singularity, where carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen start to mix with metals and electricity and other forms of energy, and on a global, like, just a scientific level, material level, I guess you'd say, it's no different than how we are now, and what makes our consciousness sustain itself. So all of these factors come into the point where there is an evolution that's coming. It's either a destruction or an evolution, and it's kind of up to us to help steer that. I think that we're being influenced by a lot of forces that, like, as we've said, are evil, that want to take us down and want to control humanity. But at some point, I believe that we're going to surpass the concept of good and evil, and we're going to just go beyond evil to where I don't even know. It's just it's a potential that's endless, and where we are right now does not allow us to get to that. I don't know what needs to happen. Maybe 75 or 80% of the population needs to die, and human beings restart again with the same technology, and they do it right, or I just don't even know. But that is my take, that there is going to be an eventual evolution of humanity, and at that point we basically become limitless, and that's when we figure out time travel and send UFOs back that we talk about, right now. But that's my closing thoughts.
So, yeah. There's a lot there.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
So for me, I think in the grand scheme of pure evil, winning, that would be the case where they exceed ethics. That's the whole point. Morally, you don't want to exceed ethics. Morally, you don't want to, because morality is attached to spirit. It's attached to God.
Yeah.
A part of you that's like, I don't know why this is wrong, but a part of me just knows it is wrong. Fighting against that and numbing that voice or canceling that voice out would be to go against God, or basically separate yourself from God entirely. The unforgivable sin is the one where you absolutely like disregard God, and you're like, no. So the idea of pure evil would be disregarding God, and that would be the future. Would be ethics no longer exist, nothing exists, because they have over time domesticated us enough to allow it to happen, or they kill off the majority of the population, 85%, so that they can go forward without threat of being stopped. Now, tons of movies, everything kind of have already said all of that.
Yeah.
So for me, it is a spiritual thing where people wake up. Again, when it comes to the technology, our technology right now is absolutely absurdly crazy. We could easily use that technology to figure out why these medicinal herbs are so powerful, and we could possibly make them more powerful or find better ways to ingest them so that they act faster. There's tons of things we can do with what we know works. Here's the human body, and here's these ancient secrets of all these herbs that throughout time they said worked on everything. Okay, we could do that. We could easily figure out what makes these herbs and all these things so powerful. Why does this part of turmeric, why is it that much of an anti-inflammatory? And how is it so widely speculated that it could possibly prevent or cure cancer? Turmeric, a root. Now, if we did real research into that, do you think it's possible that we could maximize that and make it more potent? Probably, but we're not. There's a lot of things I think we could do morally and ethically with what we already have to really exceed what we have. Like, here's a root that can make you healthy. Let me exceed that. I want to be better by tomorrow. We'll find a way to make that work. Instead, the alternative that we're sold is we need technology to basically help the body. No, you need technology to help figure out what helps the body. You don't need technology to help the body. You need technology to figure out how to help the body, because the body needs all natural. You could take a strawberry, take everything the strawberry gives you that your body needs, and your body won't work as well, because the body needs to break down the actual strawberry and separate everything naturally, because that's how it was made.
Yeah.
My stomach was made to take a strawberry and dissect it piece by piece, not to take a strawberry vitamin, because then it just breaks down the vitamin. It's like, yeah, the body needs these things, but I need food. I need the stuff to break down. Well, don't take the vitamin on an empty stomach. Eat a McChicken or something and then take the vitamin. Yeah, because my body knows that as it breaks all this down, these other things are being extracted too. I'm trying to trick my stomach, a perfect mechanism.
Yeah.
Something more perfect than any fucking technology. And I know if I put something into technology, trying to trick it, it won't work. So it won't work for my body. You cannot trick my body. My body needs real things to break down. So we don't need to change the genes of all of the natural foods that my body needs to break down. We don't need to try to supplement it. Like, we don't need to find faster ways for me to get it. No, I just need to eat. I need to sit down and eat breakfast. We don't need to skip breakfast. You know, my life's not that fast paced. I can sit down and eat breakfast. My body needs to break these things down naturally. So I am an optimist as well. I'm an optimist prime. And I think that humanity has great potential. I think it's just simply waking up and going, hey, we're not stupid. We know how everything works. Everything we understand. It doesn't take a big conversation to explain the chain of hierarchy when it comes to like the food chain. We all understand how the food chain works, the cycle, the natural cycle. And we don't like that this animal kills that animal, but we understand the cycle and that it has to happen. There's a balance.
Yeah.
Now, what happens if we say, you know what, we don't like that balance and we want to protect all the animals? Do you think that causes problems? Where you don't let the predators eat what they need and you don't let nature work the way it's supposed to work? Of course, we know that causes problems. Now, for your human body, you need an organic, natural fruit that hasn't been fucked with, and you just got to eat it. It grows in the soil, you eat it. And there's an animal. You kill it, you eat it, you use all the parts for all these different things. Say a prayer, I'm sorry, buddy. Thank you. But like, where we're going is that angle of let's just take all the pain out of life. Let's try to make life the way we want. You can't. It's not possible. You are going to create so many more problems. And that's why I say the future that we're heading to is a lie. It's a lie because they know what the human body needs. They know how the human body works, and they're trying to tell us they have a better way. And that's the direction I believe they're taking us. I think it's very obvious to say that all these people who lived as long as they did in, 10 times worse environments than us, and they lived as long as we did, if not longer sometimes. Like, you got to ask, like, what are these herbs they're using when they get bit by these wild snakes? What are they using when they step on this wild poisonous fish? Like, it cures right up. You see YouTube videos of dudes going out and they're like, these guys, they did, I don't know what they're saying, but they started chewing on this root and they spit it on my leg. It's better. I fucked my leg up. Like, it should, I needed surgery. I needed this. 2 days later, like, it was better. Like, that shouldn't be possible in America, but over here in Africa, in the middle of the woods, when I got hurt, they fixed me like that. Like, I think humanity has lost the understanding of how powerful the earth is for us and what it can actually do to reverse symptoms. But we're told, no, you have cancer. A plant can't fix that. It's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's hard to argue with when your plastic, arsenic, and microwaves caused it or whatever did this to me. I don't know because I don't understand any of it. I just eat it, and then I get a problem, and then you're telling me they were able to fix it with a root that you're telling me isn't sold in stores anymore because it's harmful or something? I don't see any research that it's harmful, but I see plenty of research that it should not be sold to me to help me with this very deadly problem because it's too harmful. There's just so much stuff where you're like, we have such a bright future as us, collective, but a small minority of evil is what is guiding us, and we're letting them. It's what it is. We all know the basics of humanity. It's like you always said, to follow the greatest, go back to the basics. So why are we trying to get more complicated? Just saying.
Well, let us know what you guys think in the comments. Thank you guys for joining the chat tonight. If you do have something to say, leave a comment on the video. We will respond to you. And we're going to continue this future series next week. Join us every Wednesday for the live shooting of the episode. You can join in and be part of the conversation and help steer it. If you are joining after, obviously we will respond, like I just said. And tune into us next time.
Until then, Meta Perspective out.
Meta Perspective Podcast.